What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mythic Conversations. Got a little bit of a different backdrop today. I was actually kicked out of my normal spot. Normally, I'm downstairs in my basement where my office and my toy room is, but it's also where our family room is. So today we actually have a guest over, and they are all downstairs going to be watching a movie because it was weird to kind of watch it in somebody's bedroom. So today I am in my living room, actually not my living room, my dining room. I'm in my dining room. The wall behind me, these are all places that I've been in my travels and all pictures that I've taken of some of the different places. The big map in the middle is one of those maps where you scratch off the places that you've been. And I haven't pulled it down in a while to actually do it, but there's a few more I've got to scratch off. But yeah, that's where I am today. So when you look at something, you got something very, very different. But that is the only thing that's different tonight, because tonight is one of those familiar shows, one of those popular shows that people have come to really look forward to with Mythic Conversations after a new wave reveal. Tonight, we are going to be doing our normal pop and swap show where we take some requests from the audience. We've already seen some people asking. We're also going to be showing some things we've already prepared. And to do all of this, I have brought on the one and only, my friend, proprietor of the Joe Cam, Mr. Joe Vasapollo. Joe, thank you very much for joining us again.
How's it going, everybody? Good to be back. Looking forward to this. Got a big old mess in front of me, ready to play. Let's go.
So before we get started, Joe, just real quick, you were down at Heroes Con this past weekend. We were both there together last year, so I missed out this year. George took my place, but from the photos I saw, seemed like a really fun time. I know that I was pretty jealous not being down there to share that time with you guys.
Yeah, it was great. We were in about the same spot.
Mm-hmm.
We had Ishwar there, our friend from Toys R Ish, as our street team.
Mm-hmm.
Had a terrific setup. I had a little table off to the side to do a little pop and swap demo of
I saw
how these things work.
That's what you were doing right here. I got that photo for my cover for today. You doing some demo stuff right live at the show.
Yeah, I mean, people are right. I never look happy. I don't get it. It's just natural. Yeah, believe it or not, there's a lot of people who don't know what these things are and don't know how they work. It's kind of hard to tell when they're in the package on the table or even just standing up. Just what all the possibilities are with these. So if I saw somebody walking around, I'd say, hey, how you doing? Are you familiar with these? Would you like to know more? And I just start ripping them apart and popping them back together in different configurations. It was quite fun. I just basically said, if you know how Lego minifigures work, it's this it's that in 6-inch.
Yeah.
There was one gentleman, I don't remember his name, but he had mentioned he'd been collecting these off and on for years. And he wouldn't take them out of the package.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so like you still know that they do this. And he was just like, his mind was blown. He goes, they do that? And I'm like, yes, they do that. And they come with other heads, so there's other looks that you can get out of them. Just kind of going through, and he's like, oh no, I'm gonna have to start opening them. I'm like, that's the best way. I broke them.
Yeah. So Van is saying that I missed the meats and the meats missed you. Did you guys go back to Brazilian?
Of course we did. Of course we did. We had a heroic feast. If ever there was one.
I'm feeling tired and sweaty just thinking about that.
The thought alone.
Before we get started, I do want to just point out on a little bit more of a sad note, Kavar Customs is reminding people to check out the Ralph memorial going on in the Cabal. A wonderful Legions fan who unfortunately passed away recently. They're doing some giveaways, a raffle in the Cabal to raise some money for the family he leaves behind. So very much in our memories. Obviously, never want to say goodbye to somebody. So in true Cabal fashion, they're pulling together to try to do something for those he leaves behind. So check out the Cabal and what's going on over there. Okay, let's see. So Joe, how do you want to get started? I know we've prepared a number of pop and swaps. I guess before we get started, we're going to try to take some requests in the chat. I will be monitoring the chat to see if there's requests. Is there anything we need to tell people? Because there are some times where we get requests where they want us to combine like 5 different figures in one. That's really tough to do on the fly like this. Certainly anything that's in pure prototype form, those are always going to be really, really tough to deal with. Things like, the All-Star 6 wave or the Rising Suns wave, those are very much in prototype form. If we even have all those pieces, they're not meant to pop and swap. So keep some of that stuff in mind when you're making those requests.
Right. Luckily, this wave is a lot of parts in the library already, so I'm able to get them apart a little bit easier and swap them around. But yeah, sometimes it's just 3D printed parts where I won't be able to make the connections that a lot of people want to see without taking a Dremel to it, and we're not ready to do that tonight, which is why I've taken a lot of pictures ahead of time, just to kind of get some of those ideas across, especially when we have soft goods involved, because soft goods, they're great quality when they come to us, but between taking pictures of them and doing stuff like this, having on display at shows and such, they get a little bit of wear and tear, and we only get one of each soft good that comes through here before it goes to the factory. Obviously, they're in front of me. It hasn't gone to the factory yet. We want them to be in the best possible condition before we send those off. The more I play with them, the more of a chance there is of something happening to them, unfortunately, and I don't want to be that guy. So we'll do the best we can with what we've got and the time we have.
So looking at all these pictures that I have here, dealer's choice, where would you like me to start?
Surprise me. Well, what you can go in order that I sent them to. You can do the last one I sent. It's all good.
Do you want to start by showing the one you sent me yesterday that you said you loved, or the one that you teased on the Cabal?
We can go with the impatient one, sure.
Which one's that? Is that the one you sent me, or is that the Cabal one?
You know what? Either one's fine. I don't remember.
Okay. So I'm going to start with this one here. Talk us through this pop and swap.
Oh, yes. So this is our Shadow Elf Warlock, which is mostly the second version of the Headless Horseman, with the Shadow Elf Kaipacha head and the cape of Demistros.
Nice.
Plus some accessories from the Poxus magic staff set, and I think the evil magic effects, if I'm correct. There. Just throwing those purples together, seeing that head. I have a warlock, a Shadow Elf warlock in my collection now, but once I saw this head in the studio for the first time, I'm like, oh, I know exactly what's happening with this fella.
Yeah. I loved when you sent me this one. So this was the one where so Joe had sent me a message. He said, do you want me to send you photos as I take them, or just one big dump? And I was like, I was so busy working on a project. And I said, just give me one big dump. And then you sent me this one and you said, I can't hold this one back. And I can't hold this one back. I have to show you this one. And I loved the fact that, this head, so this head, the one that people have affectionately called Papa Smurf, this comes with the thief figure, Kaipacha. This was one of those heads where we knew we wanted to add some extra heads to the figure to add that additional value, to build out his crew and everything. And Eric selected those two in true fashion. We weren't sure which one we were going to use. They both got painted up. They both look cool, so they both got included. But I love the fact that you've been able to take this, and now I can imagine putting this with my Shadow Elf Ranger and Warrior and Malachi, actually Malachi,
Yep.
putting them with all of them, and it's going to just fit in perfectly.
Yeah, that was the idea, just how all those colors go together. The blue, the purples, the black. And what I try to really utilize here are, well, Headless Horseman. Maybe some people just put that out for Halloween. But I figure this can be like a year-round sort of look where you switch it to this if you have a chance. And I know that the Mistros cape may be a little bit harder to come by. If you put the black one on there or any of the generic capes, that should work just fine with this as well. But I figured we have it available, so toss it on.
So we are getting some questions about this head, specifically about color matching. Like, how does this head compare to, say, like they're asking the blue on Lord Dragul or on Zazar? I mean, the color on this head very much matches the Shadow Elves. So if you have, Malachi or you have Shadow Elf Ranger, you kind of should already know what that color match is.
And I just so happen to have some of those things pulled in front of me. So if you want,
Joe, I'm gonna
give me a second to swap around here because I got to switch my camera setting.
I do have a question here that I'll answer. Someone wanted to see the Frost Ogre head on a Calazair body. That will not look good at all.
Nope.
The Calazair body is brute scale, which is a little bit bigger than 1.0. However, the ogres are much bigger than both. So putting an ogre scale head on anything other than an ogre is going to look way, way oversized. Okay, so I'm going to solo layout Joe here. So again, this is comparing that head from Kaipacha with the Shadow Elf. So you very much see those are identical colors.
Yeah.
What else do you have?
When we're painting up the prototypes, I will pull this type of part and hand it off to whoever's painting it to say, it's this type of character, so we want to have that sort of match. As you can see, lighting's a little bit tough because of how dark it is in the hood there, but it's a little bit darker, but we plan on it being very close, but also once it's in the shadow, it's hard to tell.
And you don't have a Zazar or a Lord Dragul next to you, right?
No.
So,
unfortunately, I don't have those readily available.
Yeah,
but
so
I would say that the Lord Dragul is definitely I would say it's a lot lighter of a blue than this. This is like a dark midnight blue in comparison to that.
But that's a good point. Like what you just said is comparing this to any of the existing Shadow Elves, that is going to give you a really good sense of what that color looks like. So you can kind of do that match on your own.
I don't have a Zazar around, but I do have this other funky guy we threw together a little while back. I don't know if anyone recognizes this fella.
Yep.
Yeah, so we switched off the bones for flesh, but that's the skin tone we're looking for, right? So
that's the Zazar body right there.
Right, yeah. So taking a look at that.
Yeah, so it looks like it's a lot darker.
It's a lot darker, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, it wasn't intended to match with this particular guy, so it's just a little bit lighter in the flesh tone there. But, toss a cape on this, and that would be pretty cool, too.
Yep, there you go. Or, look, you could add a little bit of paint to that head. Those heads. So, that's something I think that's worth mentioning is, the heads that are inside the hoods, that are inside the helmets, they're not meant to come out. But what I mean by that is they weren't designed to be removable, but because they're separate pieces and they're just glued in there, you can absolutely remove them. Because, one of the things that I immediately thought of doing, Joe, was the head that comes with Yoseph, the angel figure. That, that's the head, the Xylernian guard head. We've used that. It came with two versions came with the Xylernian guard, but they both were meant to be elves, so their eyes are not painted. And eyes are, obviously one of the toughest parts to paint on these figures. I've seen people, ironically, like Joe Russo, who that figure is named after, take that head and paint pupils on those eyes to use it as a regular human knight. So that's something you can do with that head just by popping it out of that helmet and popping it into one that comes with the Xylernian Guard. You can turn that Xylernian Guard into more of either a human type member of that unit or just a human knight. Yeah, that looks cool.
Again, that hood obscures a lot of the face.
Yeah.
So, that's going to block out a lot, but essentially that's what we're looking at.
Almost darkens it up a little bit too.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome, dude. Okay. So I've got that. I'm going through the comments here to see if there's any more comments that I need to hit. Someone did ask, Big Dub actually, who I'm going to see this weekend. He asked to see the centaur with Calazar the Djinn. So I don't know if he's asking for just the Djinn head on the body. I mean, I guess that would be all you need, because really you could put the whole upper body, but.
Yeah, I would need a moment to get one of those, but it can be done.
Okay, well, we'll keep that. We will keep that in the back. Let's see what else we got for photos here. Any requests you want me to go to? Joe, any requests?
Oh, I can't read the requests, so I don't
know. No, I'm asking if there's any requests for photos you want me to bring up. I know, I'm going to bring this one up.
You go ahead.
I'm going to bring this one up. So you teased this today on the afternoon show where you showed Scaffoid with those golden wings from the gold skeleton too. And even when we were revealing that, there were people in the chat that were kind of like calling it the Scaffoid, build a set or bonus set or something. I know that Len is very fond of Scaffoid, so he was excited about this. But that's a really cool look right there. I really dig that. And I've even got a more of a close-up look here where you can kind of see, those green colors. Now you painted those wings, and they've got this like translucency at the tips, but they've got this greenish hue to them to really make them seem corrupted. It looks like they were meant to go with Scaffoid. I love it.
I wouldn't be telling the truth if I didn't have that in my head as I was going through this, but the wings were not designed to go with Scaffoid. But as I was doing it, you can't help but draw the parallels. Otherwise, I would have used the exact color paints. I didn't want it to be exactly like that on the nose with that look. All right, here we go. Please
let me
forgive the shaky camera, but that's the Calazar head.
Oh, I'm gonna
on the centaur.
I'm gonna solo you so we can see that.
There we go. So yeah, of course, that's not going to match. It's a very light color.
Yeah.
There.
But one thing to keep in mind is, Calazar is a brute, so you could, use that whole upper body, because as a centaur, I think it would be fine to have the upper body obviously be a different color than the lower body. They're both blues and everything. So if you could either paint match that head here, like somebody did. I saw there some pictures, and someone in the chat was just mentioning that Errol Cathcart paint matched a Calazar head to an Epherius, which was on display at Heroes Con. Jordan is letting us know that. So you could do that here, or I think you could use that whole upper body, and either one of them would be cool. Checking out the comments here.
If only we had, like, I don't know, a pair of pants and shoes, you could just shove those onto the bottom of the centaur and have a whole other character there. That would be pretty cool.
Well, I did that recently with a custom of my own that I haven't shown yet, where I used the Epherius body, and I actually used the lower legs, the lower back legs from the horse. I remember actually seeing Brian Almeida a while back did a figure where he used the bottoms of the horse leg with like normal upper legs, and it was something I had never thought about, but it works perfectly well. Yeah. So I ended up doing that and made, basically a brute scale character. Obviously, I used the horse back legs. You could use regular legs and it would work fine.
Yeah, just so we can get a screenshot here.
Nice.
It's a little bit hard to tell, but yeah, there's definitely some gold in there, a little dry brush over everything. It depends on how the light hits it, really. So sometimes it looks a little more gold, sometimes it looks a little more green and yellow, just having that color change effect. But it works
Yep.
really, really well on this guy. It's just a few shades off from what we're looking at on the
Yep.
bones, but that's okay. Um, it's pretty wicked.
Yeah, I love that. So one question I'm going to answer, Joe, because a
Mhm.
number of people have asked it, included our friend Sherman Berber. Can you tell us which of the hooded heads are used for Azza? Is it the original sculpt or something else? It is the original sculpt. I have actually answered this a few times. I think there was some confusion about that head because it does look somewhat different in the photos that Trevor took. And it really is just a scenario of, I think the head itself was probably seated a little bit differently in the hood, the angle that Trevor may have taken it at. There was a combination of factors that made it look, because a number of people pointed out, oh, look, the hood, the head sits differently inside the hood. That was just a trick of the photography. It is absolutely the same head on this as on the original.
Yeah, I'm gonna swap the heads between the two right now just to
Mm-hmm.
get the point across because this cape has
Mm-hmm.
so much body underneath the hood that
Yeah.
it pushes this lower section up. And it does seem to change the shape, but it's
Yep.
actually the same. So yeah,
Yeah, that's a good point.
just to show everybody what's going on here.
Yep. It's funny, as you were saying that, Cloud actually mentioned that in the chat, said the cloak pushes the bottom of the hood up.
So check that out. Now that I've squeezed it together a bit, it sits a little bit lower.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the head off of the body. So as you can see, it is the same thing. It's
Yep.
not an update. It's not the one from Cinderhorn.
Yep.
And the same
So
thing's going to happen once I put it on this. It's just going
yeah.
to push up a little bit, and that's the difference there.
So King Castle saying, pretty surprised Azza didn't get any new heads. And actually the exact opposite is true here. She's an example of a character that she was never really meant to be a major player in the story. She's super cool. She's one of my personal favorites, but this was an example. And, when Eric and I had done a show months ago talking about, not doing all stars, what we had said was that doing version twos instead, it opens up some spots for version two characters that probably would never make the cut when we're just doing major players. So if you look at the 3 version twos in this wave, as a gold skeleton and the night builder, none of them got new heads. And that's because no new heads were sculpted for them. They weren't major characters. It would probably have never gotten onto the docket to do secondary heads, but being able, instead of just straight reissues, to do something like this where we update them with the available parts allows us to get these characters into collections.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the original head, the original hood. It is 100% everything from the original.
I guess the difference here is she uses the same gloves, right? But we have the updated hands with the expressions compared to the original.
Yeah.
She's got a different belt style and that additional belt that goes over. We're looking at the same boots. The arm is different. There's a little change up from there because it has the armband. There we go.
Nice.
Yeah, other than that, it was a pretty
Cool.
decent 2.0.
Very cool. All right. Let's see. I'm going to check the comments here before I move over. Yeah, it's funny. So someone's saying the Thrace head is so good, but I can't have it on both. That always amused me because the as a head has been repainted on like 4 different characters, like the original hooded as a head. It's the same one that's on what Fastia. Who else is it on? Maybe it's less than I think. I know it's on.
Ravena.
Who?
Ravena.
Ravena. Yep, Ravena. There you go. There's another one.
The elf set from the video game,
Yep,
female
that's
elf
right.
set.
The elf set, it's on there. There you
I
go,
feel like
Joe.
I'm forgetting one.
But I said 4, and that's 4 figures right there.
Yeah. I just tossed this together. This
Yep.
is the unicorn, basically, with the armor from the centaur on it,
Yep.
but with the saddle from Phobos.
So, Joe, I
and the
do
logo
have
is
that
Phobos.
as a photo right here,
Cool.
too. So I'll bring that up as a
That's
photo.
better. Yeah, that's better than the shaky cam.
Yeah. So I got that as a photo. So talk us through this. What is this now? This is the unicorn, but minus the unicorn parts with just the horse head, you said. And it's
Right.
got the armor on it from the Shadow Centaur.
Yeah, for the sake of not tearing apart the prototype, I just used a Phobos body underneath, but we have the mane and tail from Umbra.
Got it.
And the Phobos saddle, and I just wanted to, show what the armor looks like on a basic horse. It's all functional. The main connection point comes from the back of the saddle, really.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it connects with the bedroll.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm gonna
see it. Up top here.
I'm gonna
There we
solo
go.
you
Sorry
so we
about
can
that.
see that. Yeah,
Shaky cam again. Sorry, people here, but yes, the connection all happens here because this is connected.
Yep.
We intend for that to be the case in production. So
Yep.
that's the connection point there. And I guess
so
if
you
you
can pop that out. Yep.
right, and if you had the headdress, I guess from the Phobos as well, that would look pretty mean and nasty on there.
Yeah, that's very cool. So that armor is the armor that was introduced with the Phlogius figure, which really does, bulk that horse up and give it, more of a substantial kind of presence, being all armored and everything.
I guess while we're at it, I can grab the centaur parts with the knot saddle. Let's get a look at this fella here, off to the side.
Okay. And that
so we developed this skirt in the front just to kind of close up some of that area around the armor, but without it, this is what we're looking at.
Yep.
And I can take off the saddle, not saddle, the armor. It's force of habit, people. You know what I'm talking about. Now, of course, these are some of these are printed pieces. They are very fragile. Oh, boy. Let's scratch up the paint. There we go. So that
Babylon Squared is asking if the new unicorn parts match the Phobos black from Alithia. Well, I mean, you just had the unicorn, one of the unicorn heads on the Phobos body, and it looked like a pretty good match.
That's what I used. It's just really it's a flat black on there.
Yep.
The idea is to have a regular horse head to go onto any other horse head. So that Umbra will be able to kind of double the opportunities you have to make custom horses.
For sure. And Umbra does come with a basic mane as well. So if you don't want that more scapular kind of centric one.
Right.
So this is that Shadow Centaur stripped down a bit more. It doesn't have all the armor and the extra stuff. So, you can make even a more savage type, less, ready for war type look on that character.
One of the things I wanted to try is to get a Boreas neck and head onto this, but I can tell everybody for sure this is closer to blue, and Boreas is definitely more of like a lighter gray when you put them together. So while I can't do that on camera at the moment, I know that's how it's going to work. It won't look right without paint.
Yeah. Yep. That's cool. I mean, I did see someone recently. It's funny. For everything that we give, people always want a little bit more, which, dude, I totally get it. I want more in my toys too. But someone was saying, oh, it'd be great if you had added a horse head and neck to that set as well. They might have even said a set of legs, but they certainly said a horse-headed neck, and it was like, okay, well, at that point, you're going a little bit overboard. But because they were saying it'd be great to have a horse in that color, and that's what I had said. I was like, check out Boreas. It's a different color, but it's not that different. Like if you're looking for that dark kind of horse, that grayish horse, the Boreas will at least be an option for you.
Right. And it's got everything you need already without having to sacrifice something.
Sure.
So just get a Boreas.
This is a figure, Joe. It's funny where I've been listening to, a number of different, Legion shows talk about the Ashes wave and, which one are your favorites and stuff. And the centaur, and it's one of the reasons why I love this line and certainly this wave with all this variety is I've seen people choose the centaur as their least favorite. And I've seen a number of people choose the centaur as their most favorite. The fact that there's that much variety, it really does show how so many fans have different collecting likes and dislikes. Right. Why a wave like this that's got this variety, I think, is a really nice breath of fresh air where you get to have, figures that, some of them may not be your cup of tea. Some of them may not fit your personal collection, but there's likely to be a couple in here that are exactly what you're looking for.
Sure. I mean, honestly, centaurs are not necessarily one of my favorite mythical character creature types, but I just can't help but love these.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
I should have got a Nefarious next to this guy. That would have been cool. I don't have one around. You know what? I think we may be doing some pictures later on that we'll post throughout the sale. That way people can just get an idea of what lines up.
So what I'm going to do, Joe, is I'm going to bring up another one of the figure swaps you did. And this one is going to be the one that you had teased earlier today. Talk us through this one, this combination of gold skeleton parts.
So this is one of the easiest ones to make. You pull off all those gold bones. You can't do much about the skull underneath the helmet, but if you leave the plate down, it's just fine. You can use any of the two Headless Horseman figures. You can use arms and legs from Valak. I even think Fisher Rice. He'll come with that set. You'll have a blue stripe in there, but if you can ignore that, that'll work. There's a lot of great ways to just go about making this happen. As I was painting up this skeleton, this is another kind of swap I had in mind, just going through it because I love this color combination. Just kind of bring this guy to life and give it a whole new name and look.
Yeah, I like this a lot. And this is one of the things that I had thought about with that figure where I had said, it is so obviously the gold skeleton, but because it comes with both the armored feet and the, armored feet and hands and the skeletal, if you put those armored ones on and just swap out those bones, in this case, you did it for these fabric parts, but for other armor or something, the gold armor from a Gold Knight Legion builder would work right there. You can totally make a knight out of this. Even if you wanted to, put a different head inside of there, that could possibly work. Now, you actually put this head, you kept that head. What did you do here? Just remove the bottom jaw?
Yeah, just to kind of get it out of the way. In some situations, it looks like you can see the bottom jaw depending on what faceplate you're using.
Yep.
So I just ripped that off and just give an idea what else is under there. Yep. That was the Mistro neck under there. It's just whatever I had laying around at the moment. Sure. But I just I got that. But even that's a good look. I mean, maybe this is one of those fallen angels that, kind of gained control of itself, got its sentience, and puts on some clothes so it can still get out there on the battlefield, but you don't know the backgrounds of this guy, do you? No, it's kind of mysterious now.
Well, maybe there's bones under those fabrics. Maybe the dude's just cold. Maybe he wants to cover up those bones.
Maybe.
So Joe Super is asking if the gold skeleton armor matches any existing armor in the line. Now, of course, it matches gold skeleton 1, but I believe that armor is is it somewhat unique? I mean, it looks like it's actually a pretty close match for the Shadow Centaur accents right behind it.
It's close, but I'd say it's a little bit darker because it has a wash to it. And now that you mention it, I'm going to bring out what is relatively new, but now at this point, an old favorite of mine.
So
1 second, I'm running around the building here.
that's okay. I'll talk. So Babylon Squared is asking if you had any input in this figure, Joe. And, so this was a figure that the general recipe was something that we had put together. Eric and I had talked through it, but this is a figure that you actually painted the prototype of, the gold skeleton, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you definitely had input from that perspective. Now, I mean, this was one where obviously there were some pretty specific marching orders in terms of, okay, match it to the original. But I mean, it's tough to see on camera, but for me from here, that actually looks pretty close.
It's pretty close. Sir Andrew is a little bit darker and more of a flat color compared to the other. Yep. This is lighter. It's supposed to look distressed. It's supposed to look worn.
Yeah.
But just in case anyone was wondering, it's not an exact match.
And Doak is asking about Magnus. It will not match Magnus. Magnus is gold.
Right.
Magnus matches the Gold Knight Legion builder.
Right. Yeah. If you wanted to swap the arms and legs around on that guy, that would be cool.
Yes.
But let's look at this for a second. Here's the original. If we're getting an idea, the original gold skeleton side by side. It is a different color.
Yep.
It was intentional to have be a little bit different. That way it's not a complete match to this one.
Well, it's also a better, I mean, I think we're at a different point right now. That's a nicer paint, I think, on the new one than we had on that Legion builder. So Michael Carter in the comments is calling your pop and swap a Halloween night.
I'm all right with that.
It's
just missing a little bit of green, right? There we go. Like we said many times, we make 2 of everything now, one to send to China and one to keep home as a reference. So when they send us paint samples, we check it right up against the twin, and hopefully everything matches up. So yeah, some things I have doubles up here right now. Yeah, it's come a long way.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Oh, let's see. I'm going to check the chat here to see if I have any other comments or requests.
And while we're at it, I'll just bring up again that this sash is the same exact piece from Calazir. It's not any different, no different stitching, same exact fabric color. We just had it around. Same thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's any connection from this character to Calazir himself. It's just a piece of fabric. That's all.
So V-Dog once again is asking about a Frost Ogre head on a Kaipacha body. So V-Dog, you are, I think, confused about the different scales of these figures. There's actually an article on Source Horseman about the different scales. The only heads that the ogres fit on are other ogres. They will not fit on any of the standard figures. Not only do the balls genuinely not, connect, they're not the same compatibility, but it's a totally different size. They look ridiculously oversized.
Just for funsies, though, without the neck, because I know it's not going to fit. That's about what we're looking at.
Yeah. So
it's funky.
Yeah,
compared to the head and the hood. Yeah. Very different.
Absolutely. Okay. Now that Kaipacha figure, though, I've heard people referring to him as the Novian lean of Mythics. I think the Eurolegions guys said that. And what they're meaning is the Novian build, you can put anything on that body and it looks great. And the Novian figure is so cool because there's no organic areas showing other than the head. So no matter what you pop onto it, it works. And the Kaipacha figure was designed to really have that same, kind of compatibility where, because it's that classic, rogue type, archetype type build, literally any head is going to look cool on it.
Especially this one.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he doesn't even need to wear a hood, really.
Nope.
What are you hiding?
Shadow Kaipacha.
Uh-huh. Yeah, there's a few swaps tonight that try to utilize heads from the head pack.
And I love, the colors on Kaipacha were very deliberate. We wanted those arms and legs not to be black. That was like one of the first things, because we've done so many versions of those parts in black already that we know we're doing popping and swapping tonight. There's no paint that you're adding to these to create these characters. We know there's a lot of Legionnaires who don't, haven't gotten into the painting aspect of customizing yet, but swapping parts is a ton of fun. So being able to provide these pieces in different colorways is always important. So the browns on Kaipacha for those arms and legs, that's a really nice brand new color, along with those boots. Kern Ray is going to come with those boots kind of in a dusty brown. So being able to present those here in black offers that new look.
You know what? That's something that I'd like to cover real quick. I don't know if we had time to do it before, but as far as customizers go, pop and swaps, there has been a revision from the last time we used those from Marley. I'm not going to take this one apart because I'm not sure if this is a factory paint sample or production. It's been out forever. But on the original Marley here, you have the knee that's connected to the leg, sure, but it's also connected to this top cuff. Yes. And the articulation comes from underneath the cuff, right? But that also means if you wanted to use the new knee assembly and pop a different boot onto there, really you can't, because this gets in the way. So the articulation points for this are a little different. They separate from just underneath the knee. So you have rotation from above the cuff as opposed to underneath. And I think this is going to be our standard, much like Novian Lean. Novian Lean uses the same knee, and his boot comes up, just about to there and connects to the knee assembly. There is no rotation from underneath the cuff in the boot here. So that's going to stay solid. So when you want to switch this around, this boot is one full piece as you see it, besides the ankle, which will pop off from the bottom like every other foot does. Just to throw that out there. Not to say that we'll never use this one again, but as far as swapping them around, they look a lot alike, but I'm just saying now that it is a different assembly. Mm-hmm. And that's for, not just so customers can customize these and swap it around, or at least for in-house use. It's a little better off that it worked like that.
Joe, out of curiosity, I don't know that you would have a Xenothon anywhere around you, but someone was asking, Babylon Squared is asking about the new Jaguar pots, or Puma is really what it was kind of designed to be. The new Puma head, how close those colors are to the Xenothon gray flesh.
Let's find out.
He's got a Xenothon right there.
No, it's across the room, close enough. Let's see. All right. A little adjustment there.
It's definitely different. I mean,
there's more like kind of tan and whites involved compared to gray. It all depends on the lighting.
Sure.
Even on here, it looks like there's some gray, but really, it's almost non-existent.
You could do that cheat on this if you really wanted to use those parts, which is like you paint a little bit of the color from the head onto the neck, and you just kind of fade it into the rest of that body color. So it creates that gradual, because they're close enough that gradual, kind of gradient fade from the bottom of the head into a little bit of that neck, you could make that work.
Yeah.
You could make that for sure. All right, time for another photo, Joe.
Let's go.
So let's look. We got some comparison ones later, but for now, let's bring up this one, which is another look that you did for the angel Yoseph. And this uses some bare arms. I think you've got the gauntlets in there from Sir Gideon.
That's
What am I
right.
seeing here?
Let's see. I'll bring him up. I left this one together. I like it quite a bit. It has the from the belts pack, that shoulder or that chest strap situation. And it does have the forearms of Gideon. Yep. That's something that I had suggested earlier on when I first saw the designs of this, but at the time we were trying to stay within certain part parameters, and honestly, we weren't sure if these gauntlets were going to be tooled and ready and available immediately for this to be used. So at least, after the fact, if people want to pop and swap this, they can. But yeah, so they're not going to be on the figure. But I was I was asking if we could have flesh arms with this originally, just as an alternate look to the character.
No, don't lie. You asked for flesh arms, a flesh torso, and flesh legs.
Not the legs. Definitely not the legs. But
you were going
the flesh
for
torso.
An almost naked Joe Russo. That is what you were leaning towards.
Well, okay, let's also not lie. I didn't know it was a Joe Russo figure until the reveal. Yeah, don't read into that too much, people. But another thing that we were talking about was just like the new knight has this kind of tunic. We were talking about this guy having the tunic as well, but the way it was stitched up, it didn't have a hole in the back for the wing adapter. But I realized messing around with this last night that if you want, you can kind of get this hand's not staying in. You can kind of get the tunic look just by taking this sash and wrapping it around like this, and the belt kind of helps hold it in place. And there may be a couple pictures there that show just how it's kind of wrapped around. Yeah.
So I'm bringing them up now. The photos that show it a little bit closer, where you can see it in the front. And then I've also got this look in the back, which is a really cool, innovative way of, positioning this differently. And you can even see the adapter for the wings there, that with those wings plugged in, even that back area would be totally hidden in this build. You wouldn't really see the way this hangs down as much because the wings would cover so much of it.
Right. This is the Boy Scout in me just, trying out my knots and figuring out just how to apply it to this. But yeah, it works great because it avoids all those areas, so you can put that there. And if you wanted to put pauldrons in, you could. For this purpose, I decided to leave them off because I wanted the belt, and it was going to get a little busy in that area, and we didn't want that.
Joe, is that one or two purple sashes that are on him?
That's just one.
It's just one. That's what I thought. Someone was asking, but I just wanted to make sure.
No, the great thing about it is it can get pretty wide with the wires in there if you take the time to spread it out. It's super versatile.
Yeah. Someone saying, I wouldn't think an angel would wear a ton of armor. Well, when you see what these angels have to fight, you probably know why they're all armored up. So one thing I do know that you have is some comparisons we can make. And that's one of the questions that we're getting in the comments. Can we compare Gadriel with Yoseph colors, please? So I know that you've got some more of those pearlescent type figures available to compare here.
Yeah, let me just scoot over here for a moment.
While you're doing that, so Eric Miller said, are the boots the same as Red Suns, or does that wave use Marley style? So Eric, the only figure that has those boots in Red Suns is in Rising Stars, is the Manisha figure, and those are 2.0 parts. Those are actually the same boots that are on the Wizard Shui. So the 1.0, like from Marley or from Kaipacha, those are not used unless I'm forgetting somebody. I don't think there's anyone in Rising Suns that uses those.
Yeah, even Brodor, he's got like wrapped boots.
Demistros isn't on the website because Demistros is not a Legions figure. Skullman's not on the website either. Eventually, we'll put up a new section for those like exclusive figures that are not technically under the Legions banner.
All right, here we go. Side by side. So, yeah, I could put a better light on this, but I think it's just going to look a lot shinier and drowned out. But yes, the pearlescent on this, it has a tinge of yellow to it. Without something to compare it to, it looks white. But when you have these guys together, this looks more yellow. This intentionally has a tinge of green.
Yes.
It's very, very, very subtle. It's just a little thing thrown in the mix just to give us a slightly different shade from ones that have been done before. And there's Gadriel in there. So here, let's recap. Hers is a little bit more white.
Yeah.
A little more bright. This is a flat color, so let's focus on
the
arms
armor.
here. Right. So these are pretty close, honestly.
Yep.
But I would say this is more of a white, a truer white, than even this.
Yep. Yeah, when you look at them side by side, they look, and this was intentional, obviously. They're
Right.
definitely different sets of armor, but they all have a similar feel. They can all be part of the same regiment.
Right.
So, Joe, what Eric was asking was actually apparently about the Atlas figure who doesn't have the leather boot, but he's got one of the fur boots. Do you remember, and this might be something we don't know yet because it's not fully, tooled from the factory. Do you remember if that boot was supposed to have like a cut?
I don't.
Yeah.
But
I want to say
here, and I
yes.
can look at it. So one moment.
I want to say yes, it does. But again, because that is still in the earlier development stages and we don't have tooled parts from the factory, we're always a little hesitant to answer that.
Yeah, we can talk about general look.
Yeah.
But as far as where things will be cut and articulation, that's a different story.
Yeah.
I just so happen to have it somewhat readily available. So let's take a quick
Timu
look
was
here.
asking, does the new cat come with a color matched cat neck? It does not, and that's intentional. What we were talking about earlier was that, that figure doesn't have anything that's perfectly color matched so you can put literally any head on there and it works. Yep. So that does have a cut.
Here's the knee.
Yep.
Inside there. So that knee will sit inside. So you would be able to take the boot from Kaipacha if you'd like and put it onto this.
Put it on there. Yep.
Can I do that now?
Yep.
No.
Yep.
Because I think the boots that are on Kaipacha are factory at this point. And this is 3D print. So like I've said many times before, there's just some parts where, when we use it at the studio, they don't have the same exact connections here.
Absolutely. If you have one around at some point, Joe, we did get a request from one of your fellow dwarf lovers, Chris, about from Mythic Bits, about seeing the brown limbs from Kaipacha with the green tunic from the Xylernian Guard.
Ooh. That's going to take some digging. Yes, it can be done.
While you're doing that, I'm going to bring up this pop and swap that I love. So this one that you did here, this looks to be the lower parts from Kaipacha. It looks to be like the torso and waist piece from the Goblin 2-pack with those Goblin 2-pack arms. I assume that's the cape from the Goblin 2-pack. And then we've got one of those bonus heads, those extra heads from Kaipacha. And this creates like a whole other type of, orcish, goblinish type character right here. This one looks cool. You also did a smaller version of it where you replaced the Kaipacha legs with dwarf legs to shorten this guy even more and give it even more of that goblin type look.
Yeah, I didn't know which way I liked more, so I
I
said,
know.
forget it, let's do them both. Actually,
Alec, the range of motion on the centaur is going to be exactly the same.
if you
It's
look closely at the cape that's on that, it's not really a cape.
yeah, that's you said that was actually the skirt from Demistros that was repurposed here, and it's a different material, right?
That's right. Yes, it's the same pattern, same
Yep.
exact pattern that we're using as a cape for a goblin. Yeah, every now and then,
Yep.
these parts are, even the fabric is versatile. There's going to be a picture later on where you'll see how a tunic can turn into a robe.
So
Let's
King
see.
is asking the new Goblin arms, is there a set of 1.0 and 2.0? There absolutely are. But the 1.0 does use 2.0 gauntlets because when we got the Pox's arms back from the factory, they had messed up some of the pegs on it. And the gauntlets it was using were a 2.0 fit versus a 1.0 fit. So we turned that to our advantage and we're able to use it here while we're also just fixing it and getting them fixed for 1.0 for future uses. It basically expanded our library in a way that we didn't necessarily even intend, but now we're taking advantage of.
Right, and you'll now be able to swap around the gauntlets between the two
Yep.
sets of arms in that case. So
Yep.
yeah, they're the brown Kaipacha arms on the green tunic.
Nice.
Yeah, forgive the paint robe. This is one of those
Yep.
instances I'm talking about where we
Yep.
use factory parts, so that'll get
Yep.
touched up before it leaves us. It's going to happen.
Looks
We
like
don't
that was
seal.
looks like that was a Marley under there.
That's right. Yeah, we don't like to seal our paints because sometimes it changes the finish. It
Yep.
could darken the color, and really we want them to be as close to as finished
Yep.
of a look as we can before we send them to the factory. So little stuff like that is just going to happen.
Yeah. So I mean, keep in mind these were painted in the studio. They get moved around the studio multiple times. They went to Trevor. Trevor took photographs of them. They got shipped back to us. We did a live reveal show on it. Some of these went out to the Maryland Toy Expo a few weeks ago with you, Joe, and
Hmm.
were on display at the Wolf King Customs table. And now they're here being pulled apart for these. So these anyone who customizes knows that paint rub and all that stuff, if you don't seal your work, well, imagine not sealing the work and putting them through the paces that we're doing here.
Yeah, I absolutely manhandle these at this point because they're factory parts. We have all the good retention of something that has not been played with before for years because we have fresh pieces coming out of boxes in the back.
Yeah.
So everything here in the beginning has a really good fit to it unless we take a Dremel to it. So yeah, all this wear and tear through these. Oh, it's worth it to show everybody, you know, the ins and outs and possibilities of everything. But before everything goes back out, it's going to need a touch up.
Okay. See if I have any more comments here. So I think we've caught up with most of the requests. I did have a request earlier to do the Noble Barch Frost Ogre head on Desabolus, but again, I don't know if you have a Desabolus anywhere around you.
That one I do not,
Yeah,
and I
that's
don't
what I
have one
figured.
built right now. I would have to open one from scratch or build it.
No problem. We're not going to do that one tonight then. Let's see what else I've got for photos. So, you know what, Joe? You told me earlier that you got a request to show some dwarves. Is that correct?
Some dwarves. I did as many as I could with the time that I had because yeah, there's a dwarf in this wave. People just have a hard time understanding that, and I'm here to show them the way.
So, which one should I bring up here? Should I bring up the one that I want to, or is there one you want me to?
We do yours. Whatever you want's fine with me.
I personally really like this build that you put together. So this uses, you said earlier that you wanted to use some of the head pack heads, the heads pack specifically being from All-Stars 5 wave. This also uses those Kaipacha arms, and this uses, it looks like, the soft goods from that Night Builder set.
Right. Yeah, in different light, that thing's going to change into so many
Yeah.
colors. It's actually a lot darker than what you see there. But yes, it will double nicely as almost a full robe for a dwarf. I was really excited to make sure that that would
Yes.
work out. Also, accessories from the Poxus pack, between that staff and the book and the little vials hanging off the side. A lot of these little extra accessory packs. You have these extra parts left over. It's worth tossing them together and cover up one of those ugly little goblins and make it into something awesome.
So what are we looking at here? This is, now the head on this looks a little large because this is a slightly oversized print from the studio versus the factory version, correct?
Right, yes. So when we print everything out 3D here, it's at 104%. It's just a little bit larger, and the
Yep.
idea is once it's sent over to the factory and it's turned into a tool, whatever comes out of it is about 4% smaller.
Yes.
So, yes, that's not the actual size the head will be after production is
Yeah.
finished. That is a printed part on top of complete, factory existing parts. But also, it's a great look.
Yeah. But that's what always happens. We've said this on these shows before, where when we show 3D parts, like basically when we show prototype pieces that were printed and we're showing them on production bodies, there's going to be that size disparity. Now, this is the head. This is actually the bonus head that came exclusively with All Ins, Rising Stars, All In, or Rising Suns, All Ins for at Store Horseman. But you also did one with the bonus head that was going to be sold through retailers. So this is the same head, different paint deco. This one was exclusive through retailers. And you're right, it's a very, very cool build that you've got here. That dwarf build that's hidden in that goblin pack, as you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're just gonna have to work some things around. I didn't bother to switch off the forearms there to the shorter, like goblin type, because you need a set of gloves.
Yep.
There aren't a set of gloved hands that come with the goblin set. I believe they're all flesh. So, you
Correct.
grab another set from one of those little accessory packs with the boots and the feet, the gloves, pop them on there.
So we just took a look at the soft goods from the night pack. That night pack, I feel, Joe, is just absolutely a gift that's going to keep on giving.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I will tell people, and we should mention, of course, that the figures that we're showing tonight are from the Mythic Legion's Ashes of Agbendor wave. This wave is up for pre-order now at Store Horseman. Let me bring that banner up. It's at storehorseman.com. This pre-order ends in just a little over a week. So it ends on Sunday, June 30th at 11 p.m. So if you want to pre-order these from Store Horseman, that's your window to do so. One thing I will point out, it's worth mentioning, is these figures are still made based on pre-orders. I do see some people, because there's been more of an availability as of late. We're so fortunate for that with the retailers picking these up. With more being out there, you see people that are suggesting, I'm going to wait and pick this up at a show. We are ordering less and less extras for stuff like shows than we ever have. And that's because we've got more retailers, more being sold in the pre-orders. So I offer that just as a way to say, the only way you're guaranteed to get one of these is if you place that pre-order. Our goal with these, because they are all existing tooling, is to have these ready to ship in about 12 calendar months or less. So around this time next summer or next year, we're going to be talking about shipping these figures. So if you are interested, if you like the figures, the pop and swaps that Joe's showing tonight, do not sleep on this. Get them available. Shmarma Berber, will Valiant Knight be at retail again? No, there are no plans at this time to reissue that figure. So the other thing I wanted to point out, Joe, is that, you know, a number of people have said with that Knight set, it's great, but you are going to end up with so many extra parts. Without giving anything away, let us just acknowledge that we are aware of that, and there's a plan for that. That
absolutely,
if you have all those extra parts, they're not going to go to waste. Keep in mind, we've got something cool coming up that I think you're going to be able to make use of.
One thing I would have loved to have shown tonight, but it's a lot of prototypes again, are how all the other parts from the Night Builder set can go on guys like Enoch and Adalric.
Yep.
Like I had shown before, those colors are very close.
Yep.
But not exact. So here's the same exact sculpt. So Builder set and Enoch. Very close. This is a little bit darker. That's a little bit lighter. You'll be able to swap them around. It'll look a little different, but maybe not so much that'll, you know, keep you from doing so. And from Adalric. I love this helmet. It's one of my favorites. Yeah, you have the swap out head there, right? But actually, while this is just a tad bit brighter, it's probably a little bit closer to this guy. So if you happen to pick up an extra Adalric, he would be a great figure to add these extra parts to.
Well, you know what, Joe? I want to show this swap that you did here, because this uses specifically the soft goods from the Knight pack with a gold Knight Legion builder. And I mean, that really interesting color blue contrasted against that gold. This is a look that I think looks really cool.
And this was an instance where I was trying to replicate the look from the Knight Builder #2, where you have the blue in the center and the yellow along the sides. So this actually, you know, physically emulates that look to some effect.
Yeah.
And you notice the extra belts on there. We had that belt pack that I believe is either All-Star 6 or Necronominus. Honestly, I get characters mixed with that all the time. They were put together so closely in the studio at that moment where, and they look so alike, it really does look like they could fit in. So, you know, if you have any of those extras around, those are terrific pieces to have to really kind of bump up the look of any one of your deluxe Legion builders or regular Legion builders. Just get a little more detail on there. It goes a long way.
So, Joe, I got to show this one next since we're talking Knights here.
Cool.
So this is using the purple armor from Balaam with that blue. And you know what's funny about this is my Balaam that I have on display actually uses the blue tunic and loin piece from the original Knight Builder set.
Same here.
Yeah, so
it has for years. Yeah,
it looks so great. So when I saw this, I was like, "Oh, that looks so good." And then I clicked to the next photo, and it's actually Balaam. And the minute I saw this, I immediately knew, like, well, that's how I'm going to have to upgrade my Balaam right now. I'm going to have to use those fabric those actual soft goods, that belt, those, like, everything you put together here. I mean, this could be a Balaam 2.0 right here.
Well, the idea was he's a mage. I wanted him to look more like a mage, a little less like he's heavily armored. Kind of like warlock type. So this is kind of a way to just knock him down a little bit. I wanted to give him fabric arms from Novian lean. I
Oh
just
yeah,
didn't have
okay.
time to do it, but just kind of have
Yep.
like almost give the look of almost a full robe.
You could even
Yeah, with
swap in.
Anubis.
You could even swap in the feet from Anubis, which I know that's a dog, but it'll work as a decent fill in for the cat here.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's
would.
something that's been considered on like really even over to Kai Pacha if he
Yep.
should have cat feet.
Yep.
And what it came down to is if you look at every cat character that we've done so far, they
Hmm.
all have human-like feet. And if you
Yep.
look at Anubis feet, those are not fitting into
Yeah.
shoes, they're not fitting
Nope.
into boots. So really, it didn't. As cool as it would be just to have them in there extra, it
Yeah.
already comes with so much.
So much. Yeah.
For that character type, it didn't make sense for it to have those type of feet.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. Yep. So I'm looking through the photos here, Joe, to see what we haven't shared yet that you sent me. We've shared most of it at this point, actually. I
How
think
about the wizard, the
oh
other wizard
yeah.
type?
So we got
That
a
one I'm
wizard.
super.
We got a wizard type to show that's really cool, and then we got some comparisons for some of the not Kaipacha, some of the Shui bonus pieces. But this is the wizard build that you were talking about, and we saw a little bit of this kind of build when you removed the some of the soft goods from Shui. But talk to us about what we're seeing here.
Yeah, this one jumped around quite a bit. So it's the full upper torso of Shui along with the
Mhm.
belt. And even though he has those fabric legs and boots, I
Mhm.
decided to use the ones from, I would believe it's Dias or Dias, the bug guy.
The bug
How do
guy,
you pronounce that?
Dees.
Dias. There we go. That makes way more sense. So I used the lower half of Deese just to make it more like he was wearing pants and not a
Mhm.
jumpsuit.
Yes.
So you had the Father Christmas 2 head along with his inner robe just
Mhm.
turned backwards. And yeah, so it goes along with the sleeves pretty good.
Oh, look at
Like
that.
honestly, it was not intentional for that to work, but honestly, it's pretty darn close,
Yeah.
and I'm really happy about it. We have the extra accessories from again the Pox's staff and magic effects on there, and the gloves from I think it was the first wave of Cosmic, the heroic hands pack
Hmm.
tossed
Oh,
on there, just to kind of fill out that glove look. But yeah, it's another awesome looking wizard to add to the ranks.
so speaking of wizards, we did get a comment asking to see an unrobed Shui. You did show that during the live reveal, but we haven't shown a lot of pictures of it online. And I think that that's such a cool look that it's certainly worth seeing.
Yeah, so we we have the magic manifestation parts here. I will note that without the soft goods, that there's no additional like armored piece
Mhm.
for the loins, so that goes without. And you know what? I think I had a bunch of comparison pictures
Yep, I do have those. I'll bring them up in a
of that.
moment.
But
It,
you can do whatever you need to originally with this. It has all the ports. It can have
yep,
neck armor because we decided to use this upper torso from a goblin
yep.
because the neck juts out just a little more forward. And we want this guy to be a little kind of like, he's
Hunched
not a
over.
big, yeah, he's not a
Yeah.
big build. He's kind of meek, honestly. So with that upper torso piece, he just looks like way too buff for the
Yeah.
type of character look we were going for. So we decided to switch that out for this fella. So that's why he has the goblin upper torso there, and slims him down also for all the
Yep.
soft goods that go around him.
So for comparison, here's some different photos. So we've got obviously Shui in the middle with those powered up parts. Um, to his right, you've got the one of the undead builder pack figures using the ghostly parts. So the ghostly parts are more clear, but kind of that those like smoky effects are a similar blue. And then of course there's blue Hagnon, which looks to be actually a much closer comparison to this build, this figure.
The best way I can put it is Hagnon is factory. I believe it's it's kind of hard to tell if the plastic was injected in that
Mhm.
color or if it's a spray over. But a finished toy is always going to have a different look than what we do here. The idea behind Shui is for it to have more of a clear but like kind of frosted sort of appearance to them. So yes, while
Mhm.
in color they're very similar. Um, the production may turn out where it looks a lot like Hagnon, but our intention now is for it to be different.
Yep.
It's not supposed to match. We don't want him to look like a ghost.
Yeah. Those are cool. I love that look. And one of the things that I had mentioned, I'm not sure if I mentioned it. I know I mentioned it. I think I mentioned it on this show when I was talking to Dub. Uh, I remember when I saw these prototype pieces in the tray, and let me bring this up. And it actually had that smoky effect in the tray. And I thought the smoky effect was going to come with it. And it was going to be like that additional kind of magic coming off them. And unfortunately, it does not work. And it just doesn't work because it won't fit with the beard real well. But it's something that if you wanted, like you can see it, it's from the front, it looks okay. From the side, it looks really, really weird. So it
Yeah, it looks
was
like he
deep.
has a beard growing off the top of his head,
Yeah.
and it's defying gravity. So
Yeah.
it's a
So
little awkward.
it's a little weird. I think it looks cooler with the other pieces on the robe and everything like that. But a little bit of trimming on the front of that smoke effect, and I think it would actually look pretty cool.
While we're on it, Emil Wickman, whether you're watching now or later, if we don't see a Ghost Rider tribute figure from
Oh yeah,
this,
huh? Oh
I don't know
yes.
what you're doing. I really
There,
don't.
there we go. Yep, he's gonna do Ghost Rider.
I believe in you, Emil.
I love it. So one question I got, Joe, and I don't know if you've got available, but Kirby was asking if we can compare the new Goblin parts with Cosmic, specifically asking about the Bear Eyes parts or the Ukha parts, like the
Hmm.
Goblin thighs. I'm not sure what you have available next to you for Cosmic stuff.
I think me and him are on the same wave. Give me 1 second.
Schmermerberber, yes, the Kaipacha cape is a basic black cape. Again, made a lot of sense for the character, and it's something that a number of people have asked for, just that black cape. So whenever it makes sense and we can honor that request, that's a win-win.
All right.
I'm going to
We got our
solo
Goblin
jump.
here. Let's kind of get some of this armor out of the way. Let's go 1-to-1. Now, if I remember correctly, they are different parts.
I
Again,
do.
we're looking at production compared to a print.
Mhm.
This is a print. It is different. Look at the musculature up
Yep.
here on the shoulder. It's a different part. Do they occupy the same amount of space? Yes, I would say this one's a little more buff and this one's a little more slim. But yes, it is a different part. If you wanted to paint over this to do that, you could. That would work. The forearm, I'm not going to take this apart. The forearm may be the same piece. It's kind of hard to tell. But I'd say they're
The,
very, very close.
the Ice one
Um,
almost looks a little thinner.
yeah, it's hard to tell with this big gauntlet on, and also I don't remember the connection that's on here. Let me see if I
Yeah.
can pop that off.
No heat. Oh, my fingers hurt just watching you.
The trick is not minding that it hurts.
Yeah.
There we go. So let's see. Again, this is a print.
Prototype, yeah.
What's under there? Okay, so they're pretty similar,
Yeah.
right? It's a little bit slimmer, yeah.
Yeah.
But you could switch them
But
around. I think they have the same connection. I'm not going to pull that apart right now
print
because
versus
this,
production, they might, I'm not
right?
sure. They might be the same
Yeah,
part.
Yeah, but that's what we're looking at there.
Okay.
And
It
while we
is
have
cool
this
that
little,
after all this time to get those parts, something like that definitely adds a lot to the Goblin library.
and we will look at the legs in a minute, but I just wanted to show this. I pulled this from the side. So this is the second time we've seen this head,
Yep.
and this is the first time we've seen the head. So
Mhm.
anytime we do that, we want to make sure there's, good variation. That's why we went with the face paint
The
that's
face
on
paint.
there.
Yep.
Right. Slightly different color eyes. This guy has a little more like red, and
Mhm.
they're more fiery than this. But the idea is we want them to look like two very distinctive, different goblins. The tone's a little bit different.
Mhm.
Um, we're not always going to match things exactly.
Yeah, we've had
That's going
that
to change here or
discussion.
there. Yeah.
And we had that discussion, like even when we introduced the standard bone color, that, every once in a while we are going to introduce a character that may not follow that bone color because we do want there to be some variety in, the army. We don't want every skeleton to look exactly the same. We don't want every goblin to look exactly the same.
Right. All right. So as far as legs go, I thought that they were the same. They may be. They're pretty similar.
So
So
that
I think
is,
it is a reuse
yep,
for these of the at least the upper thighs.
yep. So that's Aka.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, just the low end.
yep,
Yeah, he's in a little bit of distress at the moment, so I didn't pull out the whole thing.
yep,
But I would say that we're using the same parts here.
yep. It looks like the same lower legs.
That being said, if you wanted to paint yourself up an orange goblin using his arms and legs
There you
and
go.
add it to that, that would be pretty cool. You would
Yep.
just need to find a fully helmeted head and paint up the ears, or come up with a story as to why it's different. But yeah, essentially same thighs from Ukka used on this updated goblin set.
Kevin Hamilton is asking how long it takes us to print a prototype. That's actually kind of a tough question to answer because there's so many different parts to a prototype figure. But each part, it depends on the size of it and stuff. Probably takes a few hours to print, right?
Yeah, and honestly, whenever we have new parts coming along, we tend to have a few extras made. Sometimes the prints they come out a little funky, so if we only
Mm-hmm.
need two and one comes out great and the other one doesn't, we've just set ourselves back. So
Yeah.
maybe if we need two, we'll do four. If then there's leftovers,
Yep.
so we have a little surplus of extra parts. If anyone's been here for intern for a day, there are times where we need to clean up the studio area where Cameron, Bill, and I sit off to the side there with the window, and that people
Mm-hmm.
look at us like we're strange zoo animals, which isn't all that far from the truth, if we're being honest. But
So
yeah, we have a
Joe,
bunch of trays of those extra parts
we
around,
do.
and we can just kind of grab those at any moment and see what works, what doesn't, as a quick reference.
When you clear your desk soon, Joe, one request we got earlier from Tiffany is if you could put the gold skeleton's wings on like the pearlescent and white angels. So just put it up against Yoseph and Ignatius or whatever.
All right, gold skeleton wings.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, the
let's
gold
see.
skeleton wings.
Yeah, they're
So
gonna
again,
look a little funky.
as you were talking, the different heads. So this is another head that comes in that set. This obviously is the head that first got introduced on Thwick. And that's
Goes.
Thwick.
Yeah, there's Thwick.
There's Thwick. And
There's the
there's the other head.
reuse. So different armor color. This guy's only going to come with one set of horns,
Mm-hmm.
but we know we can switch those around. There's plenty
Of
out there.
course, yep. Plenty of horns that'll fit in there.
Yeah, he's got a little more shading again in the eye colors. It got that kind of like red tinge to it compared to that. But what I like to do is tear out the ears from one of those fully helmeted goblins and shove them in the sides, and they pop out. Like the ears are popping out. That's a fun look, but you have to destroy your toys.
Yep.
Oh, favorite pastime of mine. All right, so gold skeleton wings on, let's say, Sir Ignatius here. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually interesting that the corrupted nature of those wings, it doesn't feel as corrupted on that figure. Like it's still kind of works.
Yeah.
Versatility. We've seen it on Scaffoid. We've seen it on Gold Skeleton. Now we're seeing it here. 3 very different types of figures.
That's one of the reasons I thought it may be a good idea to do a little something different. Let's take a quick look.
Well, yeah, I mean, we
at
were
what could
talking
have been.
too. Well, because we were talking too that, we already have a figure in the wave coming with gold wings. To have a second figure that has the same color gold wings just felt like a missed opportunity,
Right.
So to do
I
a
don't have
different
the other
color.
skeleton built. I'd like to do a side by side, but for now, we're just going to have to look at it as is. So I'm swapping around the wings back here. And we're going to see the gold wings that are on Yoseph are ones that have been in production before, so they're right off a Gadriel figure.
Okay.
They're no different.
Yep.
So, in case people were wondering, here are the regular gold wings.
Those were sold
on a gold
individually as
skeleton.
well.
Right, yes, exactly.
Yep.
So that's what could have been.
Yep. Yeah, so
And that works. That absolutely works.
Totally
It
works.
looks good.
I do very much like the ones you did better. I mean, while this works, the gold wings with the gold bones, it's less color variation. And I do like the translucent ones much better on here. And it's a perfect example of the creation process here, because the original design sheet just said gold wings. And I mean, even going back further, originally it had the bone wings. And Eric didn't want to use the bone wings. He liked the idea. He thought it was creepier to keep the feathered wings. So, we even wrote into the bio that they keep their feathered wings kind of as a mockery of the celestial beings they once were. But you get that design sheet and it says gold wings. And this is proof of how the studio works, where, you had that leeway to make a suggestion and take that through to see how it looks, and it ends up on the production figure.
Right. Yeah, every now and then, collaboration happens and get something pretty neat. But really, it would have worked just as fine with those.
Absolutely.
But these don't look as good on Scaffoid as this.
They do not. They do not. So, Joe, we're coming up on 9 o'clock. Is there anything else you wanted to? It always goes fast.
Did we make it through all the pictures?
We did make it through all the pictures.
Wow.
I'm looking to see if there's anything I didn't share.
Yeah, honestly, we've looked at so much already, and I don't remember.
Yeah, I think we got through everything. So
just for funsies, here are the gold wings on Scaffoid, and I left the string on because so we do one of these. Yeah. Ooh. So they kind of go with the armor pretty close.
They do. Yeah, they actually
blend
do.
in. But all the more reason to use the other ones. Yeah, that's a cool look.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a skeleton with feathered wings. That looks cool.
No. One thing that has come up, I don't remember if it's shown in the pictures, but yes, this is a 2.0 loin piece on the knight. And honestly, I just didn't want to reuse the original one that came with the first, and this was a way just to kind of swap it out. I think even for this version, I think it ended up just being brown. I don't know if it was blue. My memory doesn't serve me quite correct here. But this was just another way to introduce that blue color into the build. And this holds just fine. The peg is not as wide, but once everything's on, it works pretty well. You can lift the leg up. It doesn't get in the way. It's not going to want to snap off. It holds in there pretty good. So, yes, we don't normally like to make those kinds of changes. Like, with pauldrons, it doesn't look so great. But here, I think it works just fine.
It's funny because, Joe, I had someone reach out to me and ask me if that was a new loin piece. And I said, no, it's just the standard 2.0. And they said, but that's a 1.0 build. does it fit? And then they wrote me back and they were like, yeah, you just blew my mind, because obviously they've got tons of figures and they've
Right.
never tried to swap the loin pieces and realize that a 2.0 loin piece will fit on a 1.0.
Right. Well, we did the same on the Goblin here.
Yep.
So it works just fine, and I especially wanted to see this one on the Goblin because it kind of finishes the look from this kind of scale into that. So if you imagine all this being one piece to here,
it works.
Just smaller ones, it works pretty well. Yeah. So when you're making your dwarf, that looks pretty cool.
Very cool.
You know, I joke, I really do like goblins, guys, but I can't help but see dwarf here and there.
It's okay. You like goblins. You just happen to like dwarves more.
Yeah, because they're cool. Yeah.
So it is so many possibilities with this wave. You know, there's such interesting figures because out of the box, like, you know, I have all these characters out of the box, you know, from the waves. But the fact that you can, not only appreciate the figures as they come, but break down those component parts to see what kinds of creations you can make. That's such a unique aspect of the Legions line. And Joe, as always, I appreciate you coming on and being a part of this with me tonight. I mean, let's be honest, really leading all of this. I'm monitoring comments and playing the role of host. This is really all on you with the Joe cam, swapping and popping these things.
You know, this is a dream job. So anytime I get to, play with the new stuff ahead of just about everybody else is totally fine with me. And the fact that they encourage it, because it also helps us, it's kind of like R&D. It just allows us to find new ideas that, we're focused on the look of the character as it's designed. And of course, yes, it's my job to accomplish that at all times. I'm also looking forward to the possibilities of what fans can do with these. And every now and then we come across some cool stuff, like, the idea for the skirt turning into a cape just by changing the material. Oh, oops. Well, that happened. But hey, while we're at it, just a quick little swap here. I can't help myself. Yeah, I mean, you heat that up, it'll fit.
Oh yeah, I've done that. That's a Swigia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that this head comes along with the set, but these ears are the same, I think, even for they're the same for him too. So you can do that if you want it.
Yeah, they're different. So I used to do that with the Goblin Legion builder, the masthead, like the Gonk's head, the ears are just glued in. So with a little, heat and pressure, you can pull them off, and just gluing them right into those ports on the side of Thwick, you get a totally different look to that head.
Right. And one thing I'm excited when it comes to the Goblin set, with all the heads that it comes with, if you have a few of those extra swigs hanging around, it's a perfect base body just to kind of have another body that's readily available to toss those extra parts onto. And really, you can get them looking a heck of a lot different once you put on the flesh arms and the legs. It's just a great available piece out there at the moment.
Absolutely. So, Joe, have you heard that people are making custom swigs to bring to Legions Con to hopefully stage 1,000 swigs photo?
That would be awesome. I'll probably have to get 3 of mine together.
I'm going to work on one. David Williams just did one, and David really loves, apparently, like black metal. So he turned his into like a black metal goblin, and it looks absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that sounds like it's up my alley as well. I've been meaning to take off one of those robes from a Jawa and toss them on one of these guys and see how that works out. Nice. Maybe that needs to happen with the swig.
There you go. So, Joe, I think with that, we're going to call this an evening. I will be we talked at the head of the show that Joe was down at Heroes Con in, that was in what, Raleigh? Charlotte.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was down in Charlotte. That was this past weekend. This coming weekend, myself and Cookie will be headed down to Augusta, Georgia for Joe Fest, which this will be our first time ever at Joe Fest. I've been told, Joe, that it is very much in the spirit of Toylanta, which I love Toylanta. I really love that crowd. I love that show. This apparently has got a very similar vibe. We'll be hanging down there with, the Purple Gang and Toys R Us and all them. Big Dub is coming out and that crew. So it's going to very much feel like Toylanta Part 2.
I'm a little bummed I'm missing it, but that's okay. Maybe next year. It would also be the third show in a row that I would need to travel for because like Maryland was previous weekend before last, and it's just kind of lots of knocking around. So got to stay at home every now and then.
One other thing I will mention, we haven't promoted this yet because we didn't want to confuse it, but we did Maryland 2 weeks ago. Last weekend, we did Heroes Con. This weekend, we're doing Joe Fest. We're going 4 for 4. We did book something for the final week of this month, and it's another show that we're going to be at for the first time. We're going to be actually doing BotCon out in, I believe it's Illinois. Now, this is going to be a street. Exciting. Yeah, well, it's a street. So it's a different street team. We're not actually sending anyone out from the studio, in large part because it got booked as late as it did. But this is going to be a street team event being done through Old Man Kyle. So Old Man Kyle, part of My Wife Is Going to Kill Me, like, Whack Pack crew.
The skull in the jar. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. OMK. He's going to be out at BotCon. He was doing that already. He asked if he could have a Legion's presence there. So, in the spirit of getting this out to new audiences, we said, yeah, that sounds cool. So if you're going out to BotCon or if you're in that area and, it's something you were considering doing, there you go. Check out Old Man Kyle. I believe their booth name is like Retro Reboot Robot, something like that. It's certainly on our website, but check that out. 4 shows in a row.
Nice.
Very
it's cool. Nice to get out there. It's nice to see
the
community.
People.
It's nice to show people who've never seen these before what they're all about.
Yeah.
It's great.
I thought I had started earlier, but there was a comment in here earlier from someone who met you this weekend.
Oh, sorry.
No, it was a good comment.
Oh, good.
They were saying they met you this weekend and they were thanking you for taking the time to explain things to them. My apologies. I thought I had started so I could bring it up later, and apparently I did not do that. So, and I'm looking quickly now, and I can't easily find it. Yeah, but
I have to throw it out there. That was Ish's idea. He had reached out to me weeks ago and said, would you be interested in kind of like giving like a tutorial in paint? And I wasn't sure if he meant like having a room and a bunch of people like standing over me at a table watching techniques. And I'm like, there's some things I just do, and I may have trouble explaining how to go about it to someone who hasn't painted before. But I'd be happy to at least show. We had a bunch of Legion builders out just to show what a little bit of extra detail on these things can do to, bump up the look and just add to the playability and creativity with them, because a lot of people are just nervous to get started.
Yep.
And just by doing the little things here and there, it's a great way to build up control, skill, confidence, all that sort of thing. Like, you don't know what you do, what you're capable of until you try. That was part of why the table was there, that little setup, and really being able to get hands-on with these. You don't always understand what they're capable of in package.
Sure.
There's also a lot of great custom pieces out there, lots of awesome dioramas that were with our setup that were donated by members of the community.
Awesome.
Guys, they all look fantastic. Keep up the great work. The studio loves seeing that. We all feed each other when it comes to us making the toys and the 3D parts and the dioramas, and everybody staying creative with this. It's very fulfilling for everybody here. So We love it. Keep it up.
Absolutely. And Thank you for the support of Full Horseman Studios and the line to everyone who's checking this video out, either live here or is catching it on the replay. As we mentioned earlier, the pre-order for Ashes of Agbendor ends in just over a week on Sunday, June 30th. You're guaranteed to get them if you place that pre-order, so get that pre-order in before it's too late. Joe, I'm going to send this out with some happy music, and we'll see you all very soon.